Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new build in my series building Nancy Drew in The Sims 4. Today I am bringing you another build in The Sims 4 that is inspired entirely off of a single Nancy Drew game. In this series, I am doing a whole house or apartment or community lot that is entirely inspired by the mystery, the aesthetic, the vibe, things that you can find in the mysteries, the color scheme, anything that reminds me of that mystery. And I let the patrons decide on the build that we were going to do this week, and the patrons voted for Shadow at the Water's Edge. So, of course, this build is in Mount Komorebi, the kind of Japanese-inspired world that came with the Sims 4 Snowy Escape expansion pack. And also, probably unsurprisingly, the vast majority of the build is using items from the Sims 4 Snowy Escape. So if you have that expansion pack, you could probably download most of the items that are in this house as well. The house is posted on the gallery, so you can definitely download it if you're curious. But it's a very traditional Japanese home. Of course, I don't know what a very traditional Japanese home looks like, so I had to rely a lot on Pinterest and Google in my research to kind of try and figure out how to make a home that was in line with the culture and the things that would be common to find in a home. And thankfully, I was able to find a floor plan that was literally called Kyoto Family Home, Traditional Family Home, and the mystery, Shadow at the Water's Edge, takes place in Kyoto. So I was like, well, this is perfect. I also just really liked the style of the house, the size of the house, so I definitely used that for that floor plan. It did come with roofing instructions too, which I also really appreciated, because oftentimes roofing can be one of the most difficult parts of building in The Sims 4. So yeah, heavily inspired by that Pinterest image. And most of the exterior of the home is in line with kind of just Japanese architecture and style. I really wanted to use the wood paneling and the columns that has this very kind of distressed, weathered look to it. There's a bunch of different swatches for this particular wallpaper and the columns, and I have always loved this one. I never really gotten to play around with it, and I just think it's so cool. It just has so much dimension and depth to it, so I really wanted to use that. There's lots and lots of platforms in this build in my research, which again, very cursory Google. I am not an expert. If I say anything incorrect, please let me know in the comments down below. But in my very cursory research, I learned that there are a couple things that are pretty common in traditional Japanese homes, and one of them is kind of varying levels where there's almost little alcoves or insets in part of the wall where the platform is raised up. And also that entranceway into the house, it's very common for the entrance to be lower to ground level, and then for there to be platforms leading up in the area where you take your shoes off, and that's supposed to help kind of with like leakage and water and that sort of thing. A lot of this was mentioned when this expansion pack came out as well, and the Sim Gurus were doing their live stream kind of explaining the inspiration behind the builds, and all of the game changers, the Sims 4 YouTubers who got to build for this expansion pack, talked about some of the things that they wanted to include in the builds based on the instructions they'd received about what kinds of things are included in Japanese homes, and my research found very similar things, so I'm hoping that this is pretty authentic. I really enjoyed the really dark wood tones. I thought that worked really nicely for Shadow at the Water's Edge because, you know, it's a pretty dark, pretty scary mystery. I loved using the floor mats. I think they're called tatami. This style of flooring, it's just added so much interesting dimension to each of the rooms with the different patterns on the floor. It just makes it look a lot more interesting, even when the rooms themselves don't have a lot of decoration or furniture in them. It's like the floor itself is a feature, and I really like that. So We have a separate living room and then a combined kind of kitchen and dining room. I used red accents where I could because red is a fairly common accent color in the game as well in Shadow at the Water's Edge. The bathrooms are just kind of stone, a little bit on the darker side. I really wanted to use the beautiful sliding screen doors. We do get a lot of those kinds of doors in the game as well, so I wanted to make sure to include them. And all of the doors and windows that I use have kind of the opacity to them where you can't see directly through them. So there are some places where I still added curtains, and then most of the places didn't really need them because the windows are not transparent. But some places I added them just for a little bit of extra decor, a little bit of extra style. This ends up being a 2-bedroom house, and in my research, I found that bathrooms are typically kind of divided. So the toilet is in a separate room, the tub is in a separate room, and that was the case in the floor plan that I found as well, where they did have a separate space. Like, it's all connected for the bathroom, but there's a door that separates the tub and the toilet. So I definitely made sure to do that, a separate little washing area with a sink and a mirror. And then this build did also have kind of an extra toilet room, an extra space just in case it was needed. I enjoyed using the red roof, again, trying to go with kind of the color scheme of Shadow at the Water's Edge. And these are those decorative alcoves that I was talking about, and I definitely tried to choose artwork for this build that really reminded me of Shadow at the Water's Edge. This room where I just placed the first bed, and I'm kind of going back and forth between all of the rooms because I was really just trying to use as many things from the Snowy Escape expansion pack as I possibly could. I was trying to fit in every element that I could find that reminded me of that pack, or came with that pack, or reminded me of Japan or Shadow at the Water's Edge at all. So there is a lot of bouncing back and forth between them. So apologies for the quick transitions between rooms. But anyway, that room with the pink bed is going to be a completely pink room in honor of Yumi. And I definitely tried to add a bunch of like cute pink adorable items in other places around the house as well, almost like Yumi was leaving things around or someone with a style similar to Yumi was leaving things around. I definitely wanted to include a teapot. This tea set is more Chinese in style, but I wanted to include it because the other option that we have for a functional tea set is very European. So I included a tea set because that's definitely a feature in Shadow at the Water's Edge. I tried to include all of Takai's lessons throughout this build, so there are writing, like kind of calligraphy artworks on the walls, and there is no origami because we don't have any origami decorations or anything like that in The Sims 4, but there are cute little decorations and there is the teapot. So we included what we could. But here's the bathroom space, like I was mentioning, all separated. I actually haven't player tested this, so I'm not positive if it works with all of the sliding doors. I think it should, though. The sliding doors are usually pretty forgiving when it comes to actual navigation in The Sims 4, or at least that's what I found, knock on wood, so hopefully that's the case. The kitchen and dining area, I really just wanted to try and include extra decorations that reminded me of the game. The living room is also very simple. There's the pillow with the writing system on it as well. Again, the dark woods to kind of go with the dark feeling of the game. Red accents in the flowers, little pink accents to remind us of Yumi, and filling in the space without making it feel too cluttered because I kind of wanted to go for a minimalistic design, but also include a lot of cool elements. That was kind of tricky. And then I really enjoyed putting the red and the blue banners up to kind of make a call to the fact that when Nancy is at the ryokan, she tries to go into the bathroom when the wrong banner is up, and you can only go into the bathroom during certain times. I also included a couple of the books on the table here, just like the books that Nancy can read in the lobby area when she enters the Ryokan Hiei, and then a gray cat in honor of Suki. I thought about putting a real cat in and adding in pet stuff, but Suki is not a real cat, and so I thought I would add in a cat-like figure, and that would be even more representative of Suki. I eventually start working on the garden out back here. I definitely wanted to include a really beautiful rock garden. I wanted it to include some nice bath elements, some warm, cozy elements like that fireplace, which reminds me of the fire pit in the lobby of the Ryokan. Just little things here and there that really reminded me of the cozy parts of the game and like the really homey parts versus the terrifying parts of the game. The lanterns also worked really nicely, both as a light source and just as a way to add in extra decoration. That's again kind of the balancing act with a build that's supposed to be more minimalist, but I also wanted to add in lots of elements. All of these rocks really reminded me of the rocks that Nancy can find in the pool area, kind of the fountain area near the bridge in the garden. And this garden is by no means as beautiful as the garden at the Ryokan Hiei. So I just included a little sand garden, and then I used the debug menu for the Snowy Escape expansion pack to include a lot of the landscaping that can be found around the world as well. I figured like the red trees out in the front really reminded me of the game. This little fountain reminds me a lot of the deer scarer. It still gives kind of that water trickling sound effect. And then all of the plants just help this build to blend more seamlessly into the world, which I also liked. And then we're going to add a little bit more landscaping around the front here. That is the nice thing about these debug plants is, one, they're really big, so they can fill in a lot of landscaping area very quickly while still looking really natural. They're also free, so they don't add any cost to a house because they technically don't exist as objects. They're purely aesthetic. They're purely just there for looks. They don't serve any other functional purpose. So you don't have to pay for them because they don't technically exist as objects in the game, and the Sims will walk right through them. But they're quite lovely looking, and I thought they added really nicely to kind of that lush feeling that I feel like you get when you walk up to the Ryokan at the beginning of the game. It just feels really beautiful and really serene, and that's definitely the vibe that I wanted to go for. And I believe we're really starting to go in on the pink bedroom. Oh, I added a little ghost, a little spirit on the wall as a callback to the Yuri, of course. Definitely not as scary. I could have made this a haunted house with like the paranormal stuff pack or something, but those ghosties are just way too cute and they have nothing on the Yuri. But anyway, this bedroom is inspired entirely by Yumi's tastes. So it's pink, there's boba tea, there's little lanterns, there's flowers, there's cute little animals, there's lots of bright colors, there's music, there's makeup, basically just anything girly and fun and colorful I wanted to include all over this room. I used several posters from the Snowy Escape expansion pack, some from the base game, some even from Strangerville. I used several items from the pastel pop kit. I feel like Yumi would love the pastel pop kit. And then, yeah, any pink decorative item that I could find, I put on the desk. I thought the pink lava lamp was perfect. I thought these really bright, vibrant rugs were perfect. The cute little void critter cushion was perfect. I thought about adding in more fashion elements and then just kind of like cluttered up the space periodically with little random trinkets from all sorts of different packs that I could find. So this room is a little bit of a mess. I love it. I love how it turned out. I think it really expresses that really cutesy style that Yumi really represents within the game. I think it's fun too because one of the things I love the most about Shadow at the Water's Edge as a game is how it really kind of talks about and reflects on the differences between honoring the traditional side of a culture and honoring the modern side, kind of the newness that's happening within a culture. So I kind of tried to portray that with the bedrooms here. Like, this bedroom is very simple. So this is almost more like the Miwako bedroom, where it's very simple, very stoic. Just brass tacks. Here's what you have to do in this room: sleep. There's not a whole lot of character to this room. And then the other room is very like bright, fun. It has all the colors. It's definitely not about work. It's a lot more about play. So that was a lot of fun. And then this entranceway has the shoes on either side, just like we have at the ryokan, and like you would see apparently in most Japanese traditional homes as well, a place to take off the shoes. I also made sure to include the sign that would make your Sims take their shoes off as well at the front. And then going to add a couple of stones out the front here and a couple lights to give that warm kind of glow that the ryokan has. And then we are basically done with this build. So I think what we will do is we'll hop in to the game and I will give you a live tour so you can see on a more intimate level how everything turned out. All right, here we are in Mount Komorebi, which looks beautiful in the fall, by the way, working wonderfully for our lovely red trees that we have at our Kyoto-inspired, shadow at the water's edge-inspired home. But here is the exterior of the house from the front. You come up to the front here with the landscaping on either side, and then the nice little stone walkway into the entrance with the spot to take off your shoes, the raised platforms, a little bit of artwork on the walls, and then you can go through these sliding doors, which brings you into the formal living room. So there's a little shelf with some decorations, a couple of nice seating options over here, again with kind of like red accents, floral accents, and then the Japanese writing style. We have another sliding door here that's open that leads into the dining room and kitchen. There is our representation of Suki. We have this nice little heated table with the hot pot, a nice little pink phone over here to also represent all of the phone charms that we can get in the game, which I thought was kind of a fun touch, and the teapot, and then a nice little kitchen area over here, a full kitchen. And then if you go back through the living room and out these sliding doors, it takes you to the covered walkway out in the backyard. And if you go down the platforms, you come into this beautiful little sand garden, this landscape garden with the rocks and the little water feature that reminds me a lot of the deer scarer and the water feature in the gardens within Shadow at the Water's Edge. And then just the beautiful background in Mount Komorebi honestly adds to the build, in my opinion. Over here, we have one of the separate toilet rooms, so this is just a nice little space for the Sims to use as needed. And then over on this side, we have the 2 bedrooms and another bathroom. So the other bathroom here being a little bit more full. We have one with a sink, and then through these sliding doors, we have the toilet room and the bathtub area, which honestly, this little room just looks so peaceful, so serene, so private. Would absolutely love to spend some time there. I'm going to go to the more boring bedroom first down the hallway. Oh, it's raining. How pretty. Because this one is just very functional, very plain, just some glasses on the table and a very simple little alcove over here, very traditional. And then we have a very modern bedroom over here. You can already kind of see the pink coming through the screen door. I love that. This is our pink explosion room. So we've got all of the cutesy posters on the wall, all of the pink items, cute little cat lamps and nail polish and stuff on the floor and makeup and this adorable little artwork and clothes and the void critter cushions and all of the cute little pink stuffies. This is a very Yumi inspired room, and I'm a big fan of how this one turned out, how this whole space turned out. So yeah, that is the Shadow at the Water's Edge inspired build in The Sims 4. I would be very curious to hear what you all think about this build. Does this build remind you of Shadow at the Water's Edge? Would you know that this build was Shadow at the Water's Edge if I hadn't told you? Are you getting the inspiration from the build? Are you getting little things in the build that remind you of the game? Yeah, just let me know what you think down below and what other builds, what other game inspired builds you are excited to see. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew and Sims 4 content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.